you are on LinkedIn a lot and you talk about all sorts of things on LinkedIn. And I know you've had a bit of flack from some people about kind of stay in your lane, talk about fitness. And I guess the question is, why do you talk about the other stuff? What else do you talk about and why?
Never was there ever a greater hive of scum and villainy than bloody LinkedIn. Why do I talk about stuff outside of fitness? Well, mainly because I enjoy mixing work with pleasure. I enjoy thinking. But there's more at play here. Principally, fundamentally, it's a marketing thing. It's about attracting people who are most likely to benefit from working with me because I've got no desire to take people's money for a solution that won't deliver the result that I promised them. That would be bad for them. It would be bad for us. It's just not the way we should conduct ourselves in the world. And talking about issues that are at least on the surface unrelated to strength training, muscle building, fat loss, all that other stuff that I talk about, means that people who come into my world, into our world, do so knowing exactly what they're going to get. So, this is important because working with someone to overcome fitness problems is a very vulnerable thing, isn't it, Jess?
Yeah.
You know it's a very vulnerable thing because we've helped. Well, I've helped you overcome your fitness problems, haven't I? And it's not easy. And what I write on social media, what I talk about in the podcast, what I write about my emails, I have these opinions and they do sometimes bleed into my work for reasons I'll get onto in a moment. The last thing I would want is for someone to open up to me, to expose themselves in that very vulnerable way to solving those fitness challenges, to read one of my more jarring political opinions, perhaps. And that trust would then just be shattered, wouldn't it?
Mm.
And that would cause them distress, cause us problems because they might come pushing for a refund, or I'd have to continue coaching them to fulfill the contract even though they don't really like me anymore, all that kind of stuff. So it's just a bit of a mess, really. So I do it primarily to just push away people who don't think like me on certain things. But now this is the bit I hinted at a moment ago. The people who think like us are generally the ones who do the best at overcoming their fitness problems too, because our worldview is one of profound personal responsibility, and the political opinions, religious views, all of that stems from that fundamental point of supreme personal responsibility. And people who maybe if they don't quite yet believe it themselves, but at least aren't hostile to the idea that they can make choices and their choices have consequences, which means that to a greater or lesser degree, if they make better choices, they can have better consequences. Those are the people who are gonna do well fitness wise, for reasons that I should hope are obvious, right?
Yeah, and because fitness, turning your life around, turning your body around isn't just a case of eat better in the kitchen and do something different in the gym. You and I know that.
Yeah,
Um,
you also have to have a reason for doing it, right? So talk a lot about family, don't we?
yeah.
And I, this is going to come across really bad, but I don't actually think that people who aren't minded towards having a family at some point in the future, if they don't already have a family, generally don't do very well in terms of getting into shape and staying that way. Because ultimately what they're doing is self-indulgent, isn't it? They are getting fit for what it does for them. There is nothing beyond them. They have their life. Yes, they might have a girlfriend. They might have a job. They probably do have a job. They've got these responsibilities in society, but there's no no one's going to miss them when they're gone. That sort of thing. So
Single
while they
people.
might train, yeah, so single people will train to get into shape to, I don't know, to attract a mate.
Mm.
Fundamentally, I defy any guy to tell me that they didn't start training because they wanted to look better so they could get laid.
Yeah.
I defy anyone to say that.
Yeah.
They might say that they don't, but they're lying. It's not
Mm.
true. Every guy does that to some degree. Yeah, even the ones that play sports.
Mm.
Playing the sport is its own end, but the supplementary training that goes alongside that, yeah, you might want to be better at the sport, but in the back of your mind, you're like, yeah, I'm going to get bigger muscles and
Look
better
good.
chest and nicer legs and all that other shit. That's why they do it, to look good. Um, which is great, but it's ultimately limiting, isn't it?
Yeah.
Because, well, we look great, and then what? And then what?
Mm.
I don't think it's any coincidence that we also see these guys, typically the ones that jump on gear quite readily as well,
Mm.
because they just need to keep looking better and better and better to edify themselves, and are broadly not interested in the consequences of that. Whereas people who have families or want one in the future, it's like, well, yeah, now I need to stay in shape for my wife and for my kids. And this is particularly happens. This transition happens in the 30s typically, because it's like, your body does start to slow down. You do start to feel it, unless you're one of these idiots that jumps on TRT for aesthetic purposes. Goes to a doctor and lies about the severity of their symptoms and things. If you're not one of those idiots, things do start to slow down in your 30s, and you feel it, and you're like, oh, and then all of a sudden, training becomes about being fit enough to provide everything that your family needs, both materially, because if you're too sick to work, you can't work, and we don't have great welfare in this country as much as the media says that we do, or certain bits of the media say that we do. We actually don't have great welfare, and likewise, little things, isn't it? You're being a man, you should be handy around the house, shouldn't you? But that's not easy if you're weak and fat. I'm
Mm.
up and down on my hand, up from my knees to standing, dozens and dozens of times a day with Marcus,
Yeah.
aren't I? And it doesn't phase me in any way, shape, or form.
No.
And that feels pretty good. And I see men, like when we went to that Jurassica place,
The soft play.
soft play,
Yeah.
yeah, and I see mainly women, obviously, because that's where women take their kids, right? But also the men there, they're all fat, and they're not able to go around the soft play with their kid. I can go around the
Mm.
soft play with Connie, no problem. I can go with Marcus. I can play with them. I can fully participate in that activity. But these fat blokes, they can't, because they can't crawl, they can't
No.
roll, they can't stand. When most of them can't fit through the bloody small holes in the.
Yeah, I'd suggest there's also a group of men who have been fit, have trained to get a mate, and then found a wife, had kids, and then reached their early 30s and woken up one day in a lot of pain and realized that life is very hard and very painful
Well, yeah,
because of all of the things you're describing, but they may not have struggled with their weight before, and they've got to their early 30s and then just gone, oh shit, I've got here.
well, yeah, but they never had a pretty. They never those bluntly those men never had a great attitude toward training anyway. Yeah, those are the guys that were probably in good shape at uni, maybe did some sports and stuff, and it was never a fixed firm part of their life, and it's never a priority. So when fitness isn't a priority, it's very easy for it to just be thrown out the window at with the first sign of trouble. So you know you move into your first job of importance, and you have these extra responsibilities, extra stresses. For someone whose fitness is a priority, they will find a way to continue training in some way, shape, or form, and gradually over time get better
Yeah.
at training under this new, more stressful circumstance. Whereas for guys, it isn't a priority for them. They just go, oh, I'm too busy to train, I don't have time. And that I know is nonsense. I know it's bollocks. Um, because I'm reminded of, I wrote an email about this actually, that fat lady who, when I went to the open day for university on my
Mm.
gap year, and she said, "Oh, well, you're not going to be able to keep going into the gym when you start working shifts." And I was 19 at the time, and I'd not long defattened myself. I was
Mm.
enjoying living in human form for the first time in my life,
Yeah.
and it was great. And I was thinking, "Oh no, I can't." I was genuinely shaken to the core at the
Mm.
prospect of not being able to train. And at the time, I was on a very, very rigid routine of Monday, Wednesday, Friday. I was training for about 3.5 hours from between 6 to 9:30 in the morning without fail. Monday,
Mm.
Wednesday, Friday. Wasn't doing any cardio because I was fat. Even though
Fat
even
and
though on
happy.
the outside I wasn't fat, but I was still fatty on the inside. And yeah, the thought of being able to not being able to actually continue in that routine when I started working shifts, which is an objective fact. There would, the gym wouldn't be bloody open if you're working a 12-hour shift and there's an hour and a half commute on either side, as there was for my placements.
And 24-hour gyms weren't as a bigger thing.
Well, no, they weren't. But and I was a student, so I can only afford one gym membership. So of course you can take the uni gym,
Yeah,
right? But even so, the gym wasn't open.
yeah,
So it's not possible. And okay, yeah, you got a 24-hour gym, but it's not physically possible to train after you've, because if you've got say you've got 4 12-hour shifts on back to back, Jess, like if you need to sleep at some point,
yeah,
otherwise you will crash your car and die,
yeah,
or mess up in your job massively. So you
yeah.
don't, it's not physically possible to train under those. So, but instead of, because fitness was really important to me, so being in shape really mattered to me, I was like, okay, well, this Reg Park 5x5 routine has served me beautifully, and I would love to continue doing it. And honestly, had I been able to continue doing it, I'd probably be in much better shape than I am, and I'm in pretty good shape because I had to terminate that intermediate phase a bit too early, I think. And it would have been good to have stayed on that training under those circumstances for another year, maybe another 2 years, to really get my feet under the table and really build a proper solid base of muscle and strength. But hey, I made different choices, and that limited my athletic potential. And I had to start looking into other methodologies. And funnily enough, I found one. Was it perfect? No. Did I get myself injured several times trying to figure it out? Yeah, I did. But I carried on training even though I was working shifts. I found ways to do it.
And back to what you were saying earlier about where you talk about other things and how personal responsibility
Mm.
comes into that. You've got somebody saying, you're not going to be able to do this. And your anxiety at not being able to train whilst at university was you saying, okay, well, I need, if I'm going to go to uni, I need to commit to it. Am I going to be able to commit to this and be fit and healthy? I.e., taking full responsibility for yourself and your choices.
Yeah,
And then you problem solve to find a way
yeah.
rather than
Oh, I'm just too busy. Oh, it doesn't matter. And
why
everyone,
it's someone else's
yeah.
problem.
Well, everyone around me would have been like, would be, oh, I totally understand. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Oh, poor you. Everyone, everyone loves a pity party, don't they? And most people, or some people, would be, glad they, and I know when I was actually on the course, there were people who genuinely wanted me to fail in my,
Mm,
because I was a bit autistic about training at the time. I did talk about it a lot, and I was quite sanctimonious.
bit of an evangelist.
Oh, I was just a bit. Everyone goes through that phase, and I was a bit of an irritating little shitweasel to be around, to be honest.
I
When
went
it
through
came to
it and mine lasted about 6 months.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
It's not, and I know it pissed people off, and I know, but the thing is, I know those people wanted me to fail, and that's pretty sad, isn't it? They were just waiting for me to just, do you know what? You were right, fat lady. I was wrong. It isn't possible to train, so yeah, let's go and have a kebab and a full fat coke. Well, I don't know, but no. So
But
it,
this belief about personal responsibility, just, dragging it back to the conversation we started with,
yes.
you can't have it and fully internalize it and it not permeate into every area of your life, into how you relate to your family, into your work, into your politics, can it? And uh, that's why you talk about it, right?
Well, yeah, pretty much. And as I say, I've already said why I talk about it, Jess. I think that you're flogging a dead horse now, because I've already mentioned why I talk about it. I talk about it for two reasons. I talk about it firstly to make sure that the wrong people don't end up giving me money and causing them getting upset and stressed and that causing us stress. And the other reason is that the people who do very well are the ones who accept that personal responsibility is a non-negotiable, and there are a certain suite of political, social, and religious, in some cases, views that come along with that. That's it. That's why I do it.
Yeah, I guess the last thing that we talked about this yesterday on our walk to town. It's not about only working with people who have the same beliefs as you
Yeah, it is.
necessarily.
No, no, it is. No, Jess, I have to stop you there. It is. And I'm not looking to work with a little army of Phil Timans or create a little army of Phil
Yeah.
Timans, but there are. I'm not also going to sit on the fence and say, oh yeah, if you're a commie or you're a male feminist or you believe it's okay to give little girls hormones and things, oh, well, maybe not for my daughter, but it's okay for somebody else's daughter. No, you're absolutely not welcome
No.
to work. I don't care. I don't want to work with you. I don't want to speak to you. I'd rather I didn't know that you existed, frankly,
Mm.
because it, you know, it's just going to cause conflict down the line.
Yeah.
So as I say, there is a line, and it's not just it's not just it's your choice to make. It's also my choice and our choice to make too.
Yeah. Yeah, that does make a lot of sense.
Hmm.
Um, so moving on then, this week something came up that caused me a lot of um I was thinking about it a lot, and then I brought it to you, and you gave me the answer within about 30 seconds, and I think people will find it helpful. I basically started a new job this week, didn't I? And I've been given the option to work 3 days from home and 2 days in the office. Now, our routine is generally I go to the gym on a Monday evening and a Thursday evening. You go to the gym on a Tuesday evening and Friday evening, and then we do cardio in between. And I wasn't sure how to play it with gym
Hmm.
and work days in the office, that kind of thing. And you gave me some good advice.
I did. The advice was around the days that you trained, wasn't it?
Mm.
So, problem that we've got here is that we've got a long commute and kids to do. Well, those are the two things. So we need to balance. You want to see the kids, and the
Yeah.
commute is tiring. So you're also in the fortunate position of being able to select what days you go to the office on, aren't you?
Mm. Yeah.
Right. So your initial thought was, oh well, I'll just get the office days out of the week, out of the way as soon as possible, wasn't it? You
Yeah.
wanted to do Monday, Tuesday
Monday, Tuesday.
in the office, and I said no, that was a bad idea because your gym day, one of your gym days is Monday. You go to the gym, you lift your weights, and all that sort of stuff on a Monday. So while it is conceivably possible for you to go and train after work, that meant you coming home because you tried it, didn't you?
Mm.
Yeah, and it meant you getting home at like gone 7:30 or whatever, and the kids are long asleep by that point, and the quality of the training session was a bit crappy. You said you were all stiff and stuff, and you had to spend a
Mm.
load of extra time warming up, and just a bit of a shit show, really, wasn't it? So under that circumstance, it would make sense to go to the office, yes, on a Tuesday, because Tuesday is cardio. You can go out in the morning, go for a run before work, or do the bike or
Yeah.
whatever. Cardio is relatively unobtrusive in our world. The actual session itself is seldom longer than kind of 25 minutes, not including warm up. And yeah, yeah, the gym is outside the front door. There's no commute time because the commute is the workout. Wednesday we don't train, so it would make sense to go to the office on a Wednesday
Mm.
because you can devote your entire energy to your commute and to working in the office
Yeah.
without any other distractions, and you come straight home
But kids
in
free.
time to see the kids.
Yeah.
Happy days, no disruptions to your training. I could foresee there being problems had you tried to continue going on the Monday. And what you were trying to do, I think, was to maximize your rest time, wasn't it? By having Wednesday as like a complete, almost like a DOS day,
Mm.
where you can
Fully
work at
effective.
home, fully at home. No, but I don't think that's good. I don't like DOS days.
No, we talk about how you and I used to have an on and an off switch, and I think a lot of people do have an on and an off
Yes.
switch. There are Saturdays where you lie in, you off your diet, off your routine, where in the week you're on.
Yeah.
Whereas the life that you and I now have is we're kind of 60-70% every day.
Yeah, that on-off switch is worth explaining actually.
Mm.
The on-off switch. So most people go through life with two modes. They're either on or, as we say, they're off. So on is full concentration, full effort,
Mm.
100%. The big hardworking people. So you're at work, you're doing the gym, all that other shit, right? And then there's off, which is time where you're not like that. So at the weekends, in
Holidays,
holidays,
Christmas.
yeah, Christmas, and everything goes to shit. But the problem is the on-off switch is sticky. So once you switch it off, it's really hard to switch it back on again. Which is why I don't advocate anyone ever go off fully. I think everyone should do something productive every single day, even on holiday. We don't stop training on holiday, for example, do we?
No.
Everyone should be, have something on at all times,
Yeah.
which is kind of what we did this weekend, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because we had the issue with you because it was your first week after work and alarm goes off at 5 because we get up at 5 every day, and you didn't want to get out of bed.
Mm.
So I was like, well, no, we're going to get up now because
Yeah.
otherwise we're going to have a slow morning and everything's going to go to rat shit. And yeah, so not allowing that switch to turn off
Yeah.
ever. And it's not about being on all the time. When I say on, and what that does allow you to do as well is be a bit less full on with the on.
Mm.
Just do things little and often. A bit of a tangent, but I sorted our garden out, didn't I? Now our garden was an absolute mess. It was overgrown, filthy tiles, just awful because we'd left it for about 18 months, hadn't we?
Mm.
And instead of going out there and trying to smash it all in a
A
couple of
weekend.
days in a
Yeah.
weekend, like long 6 7 hour shifts trying to clean out the garden, I just went out and did like 15 minutes. I pulled up like a handful of weeds and dug, and turned a little bit of soil, and that infuriated you to start with,
Mm.
didn't it? Because you just thought I was being lazy because I was just going out there and doing like 10 15 minutes and coming back in. But what was it, like 10 days,
Mm.
and it was transformed.
Yeah.
This is the thing, and this is the great power of doing little and often. This is why I say to people, go for a walk every single day without fail, including Christmas and your birthday.
Mm.
Unless it's physically unsafe for you to go outside, you should go for a walk for
Yeah.
45 minutes to an hour. Likewise, you should do some sort of cardio in every program that you write. You need to lift weight. Just doing these things frequently means that you build up you make more progress over the longer term. It does come at the expense of quick results for sure,
Mm.
but it's sustainable, isn't it? Like that garden now is sustainable
Yeah.
because of that little and often approach that we're taking. Speaking of which, I need to go out and clean it once it's dried out.
Yeah. Well, I think that's us done.